Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Worth Fighting For. I'm joined, as always, by Tamur. Tamur, how you doing?
Doing well, Brian. Excited to talk about an explosive episode of The
Yes.
Rehearsal. We're
Yep.
talking about Nathan Fielder's show, right?
Yeah, Nathan Fielder, all about flight safety.
Mhm.
Really just excellent. Now, we're talking about The Last of Us. We have to do it, though. The Rehearsal, amazing first episode.
Yeah,
What a show
don't
that
sleep on it.
is. So, if any of you are dipping out on The Last of Us because of what happened, check out The Rehearsal.
It was a big tone change. Let's be real. I was like, man, should I watch this tomorrow? But I was like, no, no, I've been waiting so long. Anyway, great night for television.
Yeah, no, I agree. Really the night we've been waiting for to more. We all knew that it was coming as game players, and we are just waiting to see how people are going to react. And not great, I feel like. Well, what have you seen online? Because I've seen a lot of people be like, "Yeah, that was good. It was sad, but it's television." And then I've also seen a lot of people kind of react poorly, uh, in a similar way to how people reacted to the games. Maybe not as vitriolic, but what have you seen out there?
Yeah, so this is the big topic, right? Like I kind of generally avoid the like awful side of the internet. There's an infamous Reddit Reddit subreddit where there's people who are completely against just this one plot point in this series, and specifically in the video game. But obviously now that the flame has been reignited, and I've seen some stuff, very negative, but I think what's been really interesting about the reaction online is that I think even people who casually enjoy the show and fans of the games like us who weren't as let's say toxic about the second game, I can tell people are kind of like on edge and they're almost like afraid to praise the show in a way. And I guess that's kind of what we're here to do. I guess I shouldn't assume that you're in praise of it as well, but I just thought it was an incredible piece of television, really up there with Hard Home and I would almost compare it to like Joffrey's death, like the episode in Game of Thrones where Joffrey gets assassinated, and that was just such an impactful episode. And I still remember being in my dorm in college and watching that at like midnight, eating a snack, and you know just losing my shit, and my roommate's like asleep, so I can't like scream, but I'm just like, oh my god. And I hope that's the reaction they got from, especially from people who haven't played the games. um yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm curious what you've seen online. From what I've seen, people are kind of nervous to even talk about it openly.
Yeah, I don't know if just like I am being served up, people being negative, but I like, you know, it feels like they can't please anyone. You know, people are like, oh, it's too different from the game. Oh, it's the same story as the game, and I hated the game. And it's like I'm over here who's like, I appreciate the changes from an adaptation standpoint. I think it makes it honestly more interesting as somebody who played the game. There's like some remixing going on, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's gonna be different. And I'm here for it. If I was someone who's super precious about the adaptation being exactly how it is, rather than hitting the important story moments, like I would have watched The Walking Dead for 12 seasons. I would have had like an aneurysm from how much they remixed that. And I thought that was fine, but I think this was an excellent episode of television. I thought it was really emotional. I thought all the acting was amazing. The effects were cool. Yeah, there was some like a little bit of silliness where like Tommy's just in the middle of the street with infected running past him, and it's like, I don't, like, shouldn't they be attacking him? But I am okay with that because we got like an incredible siege of Jackson and Tommy fighting a bloater with a flamethrower, and it looked amazing. And we still had this moment that was from the games with Joel and Abby, and it was a little bit different, but I think that the siege of Jackson, the attack of Jackson, whatever we want to call it, actually added a lot of important elements to what happened with Joel, where like this big thing is happening to like his home, and like maybe he let his guard down because holy shit, there's a fire, like there's a horde, and Abby promised that her friends could help fight, and he just was like, yeah, fine, that's good. And maybe he wouldn't have gone to Abby's lodge. Maybe he wouldn't have even saved Abby had all of this been
Mhm.
happening, you know. So I thought for the TV show, it was a lot of good changes, and having Dina there, I think actually adds a lot to, because like Tommy's gonna want to get revenge. Obviously, it's his brother,
Mhm.
right? Like, I think anybody would want, revenge if something like that happened to their sibling. And then obviously Ellie's gonna want revenge. That's basically her father figure. She even made a joke about it being daddy daughter patrol, So despite their differences that they've had, like she still felt close. And Dina's gonna have this added layer of like, I should have been able to do something. Like I, was there and I'm the only one who knows the names of Abby's friends and like what they look like really. So like I thought it added a more interesting part. Where in the game, Dina goes with Ellie,
Mhm.
to seek revenge, but it's more because of she cares about Ellie. But the show made like Tina and Joel have an added layer of a relationship, which I thought worked really well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, we talk a lot about differences between the game and the show. And I have seen sort of posts online about, people waiting for this one line from, the infamous scene. And I mean, it kind of does show how passionate and, dedicated the fan base is. And to the credit of, the writers, like how memorable that scene is. It's like people looking out for literally one line that they didn't have in the show, and then they kind of like, I think about the one where he's just like, just fucking get it over with. I think that's kind of basically what he says in the show. Whereas in the game, he's kind of like, oh, he seems like, think about like you rehearsed this,
Mhm.
just fucking get it over with. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, in the show, he says, "Shut the fuck up and get it over with," which I
right.
thought worked well, in the game, yeah. It's like, let's get, this rehearsed speech or whatever over with. I agree, like, that line was great in the game, but also in the game, Abby doesn't get to confront Joel directly in the same way that she does in the show, and I
Mhm.
think like they did that intentionally because it's like, well, we need to hide Abby's like motivation so that you find out in the second half of the game where the show is not doing that. So it made more sense that, you know, Joel would actually hear Abby out,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and to this point of kind of the differences between the game and the show, I think this episode made a lot of really great changes. Um, Namely, that there's literally a horde attacking the town as this is going on. It really ups the stakes in, I think, a really successful way. You don't get that same. I mean, it's still intense when you're playing the game when zombies are chasing you, but this was just so much more epic, and it adds so much. It adds another stake to it where Joel is like itching to get back, and it's like he kind of doesn't have time for this, and it's just so much is building up. I thought it was really successful. Um, like you said, having Dina there, this is going to really matter as we will see the season pan out, and I think it was actually a really great change. Whereas Dina is obviously going to be supportive of Ellie, not to be getting into spoilers quite yet, but um, as her, crush slash, newfound girlfriend, whatever. She's going to be supportive, but having witnessed this, there's a different level of support there. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I was kind of curious what you thought about like the changes in kind of the I mean, our biggest complaint in last season was there was not enough zombies, and this was just like this was just like insanity. It was really like I forget the name of the episode, but in Game of Thrones, uh, uh, Attack on
Hard
Winterfell.
home. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
That's what,
the long
yeah,
night.
yeah,
Yeah.
the long, yeah, it was like literally the long night, but we're getting it in like season 2, episode 2, which is
Mhm.
just so crazy to me. Um, yeah, I'm curious what you thought about kind of that the raising the stakes there.
Yeah, I loved it. Like I already said, I thought it added a lot for Joel, like being more letting his guard down and almost being desperate to like have help because he doesn't know what's happening in Jackson. For all he knows, everyone's dead at this point. Like,
Right.
and he feels helpless, not being there to help with everything. And then, like you said, the biggest complaint I had for season one, and you had, I think, was that the zombies did not feel like
Hmm.
that big of a consistent threat. When there were zombies, they felt like a threat, but
Hmm.
they just weren't there for most of the show.
Right.
To the point, like the whole thing is like, oh, we need Joel to bring Ellie there because Joel's like a particularly like good survivor and he'll be able to actually get her all the way across the country.
Hmm.
And then when we get to the Fireflies, like they've been like, holy shit, like I can't believe you actually made it. Like we had a whole big group and a bunch of us died on the way just to get here. Um, you don't really feel that in the show. And then in this episode, you felt it. You were like, it made me think of, have you ever seen memes like, what would you do if you were in the Last of Us universe or whatever? It's like,
Hmm.
die. What do you mean? Like, I'm gonna
No
die.
chance.
Like, there's no chance.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, and like just kind of as soon as they kind of like breaking through and everything, I'm like, okay, the whole town is fucked. I'm like reforming how like Jackson's gone, like maybe they form a new colony. Like in my head, I'm just like they're totally screwed.
Yeah, right.
And it was just so epic, and Tommy being in the middle of the road aside, it was so cool. Um, another like big shift though, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, is the way, and I think I know why they did this from a storytelling slash uh, um, perspective of like just media and PR and everything. But as we mentioned last episode, we're getting a lot of Abby's story and her friends right up front instead of holding off and kind of being like, waiting for that reveal of like, okay, she's here to kill Joel and because he killed her father. Um, Instead, we're getting a lot of like insight into her, her friend. I can't remember like her boyfriend's
Owen.
name or not boyfriend. Yeah, Owen.
Yeah.
Um, and we're even getting kind of this perspective from Owen and the gang of like, they maybe don't really support her, and he's almost like going to convince her not to do this.
Yeah, they
Uh,
took one look at Jackson, like, we're not fucking getting in there and we're not
right.
finding Joel. Like, there's no chance this is going to work out. It had to be like this insane confluence of events that enabled Abby to actually get her revenge.
Yeah, and I did think that was also just like stupid on there. But I'm like, it's been 5 years. You get here, it's like, how the hell are you going to do this? But I don't know. I kind of don't know what they were expecting. I think they were just like, oh, it's going to be some tents and like barbed wire fence, like,
Yeah, right.
whereas it's like an actual town with electricity and they're thriving. And I'm like, damn, you guys are kind of stupid.
Well, I do respect that once they saw it, they were like, yeah, no shot. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, okay, well, we tried. It's super cold and, there's just no way we're gonna get in there and find Joel, even if we do, because like they didn't know what Joel even looked like. It's not like they had, anything. And Abby 5 years later is still very hell bent on revenge in a way that her friends don't seem to be. And so
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to getting more of the background of like where they came from and why, like, would they be kind of like, hey, our lives are good enough to where like we're not defined by this in the same way that Abby is because her father died there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's interesting that we're getting this perspective, which you don't really get up front in the games. And I think the reason why is I think it can only really be explained as they were trying to protect the actress. You know, as we know,
Which I'm okay with because like Laura Bailey, people were like, I'm gonna kill your child. And like
exactly.
that's so fucked that like we can't have that happen again.
Yeah, Laura Bailey is the actress who played her in the original game in part two, and you know, she just got so much heat because this, you know, people were they loved this character. Joel's so iconic, and having him killed was just such a big deal that there's literally, like I mentioned, Reddit groups that are still dedicated to hating on this game and review bombing it years after the fact. I mean, this game came out 5 years ago. And unfortunately, Laura Bailey received like a lot of the brunt for that. And, you know, I think to kind of save Caitlin Dever from a lot of that was to me it justifies shifting the storyline around, even though for me personally, if I kind of was like writing this in a bubble and you know, didn't have this like mob with pitchforks, um I think it makes more sense to kind of keep that and um you know, not kind of cut the legs from underneath that, you know, and really like reveal it. But I can understand why they wanted to give her character more of like a a just a relatable and a reason for this before she, you know, actually ultimately kills him. And yeah, so yeah,
And I
curious what you
think
thought.
too, playing as Abby ingratiates you a lot more than just watching it unfold on the television show. Like by the end of Abby's part, and I will admit, like when the first Abby like cutscene was happening, I was like, oh, is this like gonna be a sad backstory for Abby? Like I don't give a shit, you know. And then by the end of playing as Abby, I was like, I like this character. Like I understand, you know,
Yeah,
why she did this. I respect it. I really enjoyed playing as Abby. With like the more brawler style. Like I thought that was super
right.
fun. And you know, I'd be totally open to a Last of Us 3 where Abby's like the main character. Like I don't know if they do that, probably not. But you know, I personally really enjoyed what the game did, and maybe they just felt like I it's going to be a harder sell to have it, you know, in the storyline. And then also what you said, where like people were not chill about it at all to the actress. And Caitlin Dever is so fucking good.
Yeah,
Like she is such a
absolutely.
good actress. Like I'm very brave of her to take the role in the first place, you know?
Exactly. And kind of, you know, regardless of if this kind of kills the suspense, I think it was a smart choice just from like a PR and like a just a ethical kind of almost like
Yeah,
reasoning.
Pedro Pascal immediately posted an Instagram post of him hugging Kaylin Devers and being like, "It was so great to work with you. Like, I love you. Like, what a great scene partner." Like, they all
They're
knew.
doing
Like,
everything. Yeah, no,
yeah,
they're clearly like this was probably like a months long discussion of like we had to do everything we can to like protect her. And I mean, from what I've seen online, truthfully I have not seen anything like blatantly hateful and kind of in this, especially in the same way that it was when the game came out. And you know, I would literally see memes that just to me were like so heartbreaking and clear, like just so unfunny that it's like, you know, bothersome. Whereas with this one, I've kind of just seen like people were people who didn't play the games were shocked, and I don't think they had that same negative reaction, which is great. But
yeah.
um,
I always think about how the person whose face was Abby was not like an actress or anything. She just like worked at Naughty Dog. And then people were just like, I hate this like person.
right,
It's
right,
just like,
yeah,
oh my God. Like, what a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, no, the toxic fanboys are like truly just oh terrible, terrible. Um, but kind of like speaking of kind of like killing suspense, I did wonder what you thought of um, we talked about it last week where the fungus or the yeah, I guess fungus is growing in the pipes and we kind of get like this spooky foreshadowing. But I really thought they just kind of like killed that really quickly. It was just kind of like, okay, they find more of it, the guy rips it out, and then they just kind of move on, and you get the horde attack. But I was kind of hoping they would do more with that. I was wonder what you thought about that.
Yeah, I guess like really like when he hit it, that's when the horde like turned to Jackson, I guess. So I guess
Right.
that's all they really wanted to do with it was just like, oh yeah, and it does make me think like, is there like a psychic connection between like the fungus in some way? Like how does it know, you know, that there are people there when they're not necessarily connected? I don't really know what the answer to that is, but I guess that was really all they were going for with it, you know?
Yeah, because I guess if they didn't have that, you might have just kind of they probably would have just followed Joel to the lodge and like
Yeah.
destroyed the windows and kind of
And that's what
attacked.
they do in the game, right? Like they follow them to the
Yeah,
lodge and then they like throw like Molotov cocktails at the gate to like kill it. It's not nearly as big of a horde. I actually
right.
like just watched the scene when Abby's getting like trying to go through the fence
Oh
and it's
yeah,
like
oh, that scene is
maybe
so good.
10 like zombies versus like I don't know 50 in this scene, which was
Yeah,
insane. And like the cutting the hands like as they're like trying to like reach her and it's like cutting up the zombie's hand, like that was
yeah.
so
Oh, that was
insane.
so cool. Yeah, yeah. No, it's I mean, and that's a very stressful part of the game and really like memorable. So I'm glad it really like translated. I mean, even though I know she gets out of it, I was like on the edge of my seat, just like, just
Yeah,
appreciating the cinematography and everything. But
yeah, that
yeah,
scene is so good. Like how fucking scary would that be to be like on the other side of a little fence while zombies are
seriously.
like coming for you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, seriously. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny how like after that, everything kind of just like aligns for her. It's like Joel
Yeah.
literally grabs her hand and then it's just off to the races. It's like, all right, oh, cool. The horde stopped following us. Now we can like go over here. All my, bring him to
Mhm.
all my friends. Like it was just, yeah, it was like all very, it's like, I don't know, fate or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's Joe just got really unlucky. Like
hmm
everything lined up perfectly for Joel to get into this position.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we'll, I don't know if we want to get into spoiler territory.
Yeah, I think we should. I think this is a good spot to switch over. So if you're only watching the show and you don't want to hear any more spoilers from the games, we obviously appreciate you checking out this episode. We hope you enjoyed the episode of The Last of Us and hope that you're sticking with it. I love it when people are like, I'm done watching, but I think we all knew that this could happen. I mean, we talked about it last season where it's like a very high profile character on The Walking Dead died in a pretty brutal way, and that really did cause a huge drop off for viewers. If you like look back in the charts, it's like all time peak and then just down, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And hopefully people will stick around after this because I do think there's a lot of good stories still left to tell.
Yeah. No, I mean, to that point, my girlfriend did the exact same thing where it was just like, it was too brutal. Like seeing
Yeah,
Glenn, I don't, well, I guess
yeah.
spoiler
Well,
if you're
spoilers.
yeah, seeing Glenn get bashed in the head, which, these scenes are actually like very similar, which is interesting because when Negan killed Glenn, I remember reading it in the comic, first of all, like years even before
Yeah,
that, and just literally like feeling it in my head, just this like
yeah,
this sensation. It was like it was so visceral and really like powerful. But it's also worth noting that like when that happened in the show, there was a reaction, but it was not this toxic, like as
right,
opposed
yeah,
to in the game when Joel died. It's kind of interesting just kind of pointing out the sexism there. But I do wonder if people will continue with this show. I don't think
Yeah.
they have the same connection, not only compared to the gamers, because obviously they're playing, they're kind of in control of Joel, and you can really like empathize and in that way when you're actually playing the character. But to another point that I've kind of made in past episodes, I don't think we've had like as much time with Joel and Ellie, and it's kind of unfortunate because I wish we had like 10 to 12 episodes in the first season to kind of really like
Yeah.
hammer in that relationship. Um, but I think people are just, I think they're kind of gonna see this more as like, I don't know, like Rob Stark dying or something. Like it affects the world and the storyline and all these characters, like particularly Ellie. But I don't think they see it in the same sort of yeah, visceral kind of like passionate way.
Yeah. I mean, my dad was the same way. I don't think he ever watched another episode of The Walking Dead
Right,
after that episode. He was like, why would I want to do that? Like Glenn was the
right.
best. Um, but Glenn, I don't feel like had it coming in the same way that Joel did. I'm a big like Joel had it coming guy.
Right.
Like, Joel probably lived longer than he should have because of all the stuff that he probably did in his life. So like the fact that this happened to Joel, I was like, well, yeah, yeah. Like even when I was playing the first game, I was like, yeah, I'm sure he did something fucked up to Abby. Like,
Yeah, and I think that same I had that same thought where I'm like, I think Joel did a lot more fucked up shit that we just don't even see in the
yeah,
games or is not even mentioned or anything. And I think that is, you could probably imply that in the show too. I mean, the first time jump is, it's what is it, 20 years? I mean, it's such a long amount of
yeah,
time, and he's in Boston. Like, how did he get there? Like, who is he? It's like you don't survive that long without cracking some eggs.
yeah,
Let's put it lightly. But um, so it's, and I do think Pedro Pascal really kind of um, he did in a very nuanced way kind of show that, especially with like the okay, let's just fucking get this over with line. It's like he
yeah.
knows this has been a long time coming, and he's been lucky enough to kind of survive this long.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I thought that was brilliant. I mean, all of the actors are amazing in this, but Pedro Pascal, I mean, just during that scene was like incredible.
Yeah. No, agreed. All right, so full spoilers start right now. What do you want to talk about from like the game's perspective?
I mean, so I'm really curious. I mean, we know what's coming up next, which is this revenge mission. I do think having Dina at the actual scene of the murder was like really clever, because she in the games she follows that, she follows Ellie. She kind of she's very supportive, but like she's literally pregnant. Like at a certain point, it's like why are you doing this? But having her there and literally being involved and helpless, that just makes it so much more like it gives it so much more value. And even just kind of jumping way to the end where Dina's has the baby, and kind of is really almost critical of Ellie and her revenge mission. I think it's really going to make that even more powerful.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they do this. Because I thought and maybe you caught it too. At the end of the episode, did it say special guest starring Caitlin Dever?
I don't know. I have
Because
to
when I
look up.
saw that, I was like, oh, is she not gonna be in the rest of the season? And so I almost wonder if like we're like not gonna see her again, for the rest of the season or what. And I wonder too, based on some of the previews, are we gonna get like a Wolf's defeating Fedra episode, maybe, where it's like none of the characters, just like Isaac and his whole thing, which
Yeah,
I think could be
I think we
cool.
will. I
Yeah.
think I think that would be like a safe bet to make, because I mean we kind of got that in season one with
Mhm.
forget her name, Melanie Linsky's character,
Yeah, her
where you
character.
really get their perspective, and the filmmakers really, showrunners really seem to like to do that. Like, let's expand upon these characters, and especially
Mhm.
when you have such amazing actors.
Yeah.
Um, but that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, it would be pretty interesting if they didn't even really follow Abby for the most of the rest of the season and really just focus on Ellie and her kind of decline into into madness and just violence. At least that's how it is in the game. It's weird how that game is so fun to play and yet how fucking brutal it is. Like whenever I see clips of like people like they're like, oh, like check out this like gameplay clip. I'm like, this is psychotic. I can't believe like
Yeah,
we all
some people have gotten really good
yeah
at it.
like jumping off buildings and then like shooting and stuff. It's like it's crazy, and I do wonder how like violent they're gonna get with it. But that would be really interesting if they kind of held off Abby for like a few episodes and took you out of her perspective. I mean, and it would
Mhm.
also make more sense why they kind of had her stories up front. So yeah, at least you know why she did this.
Yeah,
But
right. If they didn't, it'd just be like, who the fuck was that? What happened? Like,
yeah, yeah,
she's just gone.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if they'll do that.
Yeah, I think we'll have an episode of Wolves versus Fedra in Seattle, and then I think we'll have another episode of like rebuilding Jackson and Ellie and Tommy and Dina deciding to like take on the task of hunting Abby down. And I wonder too, do you think we'll have like more focus on Tommy now that we had this scene or this like sequence where Tommy was
Mm.
like the POV character? Will we get more of Tommy actually hunting people down? Because it is cool in the game where it's just Ellie's perspective and you like find stuff that Tommy has done. Like that was cool as a game,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'd be totally open for the show to actually show us some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more depth there that they can kind of explore in terms of like yes, Ellie is fully committed to this eye for eye. It's really the big theme of the second game. Just kind of like hate breeds more hate and revenge and all that. But they can easily, it would really connect them thematically if they kind of if they really had even like a full episode about Tommy and kind of the way he's dealing with this like sense of grief. And I'm hoping next episode they really, because this was such an integral part of the second game for me. When after Joel dies, you go to his house and you're kind of just like going through his rooms, and it's nothing's been touched. It's like still, and it's just like it's very powerful. And I wonder how they're gonna kind of explore that through cinematography, or if they'll just kind of skip that altogether to move the plot along, because that really is like it's a very interactive thing. It's like you don't in the game, I think a lot of people complained how like Joel dies and then that's it, you just move on, and that's why people hated it. But it's like if you're really like immersed in this, you are experiencing this. You can take it as slow as you want. You can walk through every room and look at all these details, because there really is a lot of thought put into like every detail in his house. So I think I wonder how they're going to do that, and hopefully that's kind of coming next episode. Oh, you're muted, Brent.
Bad. I agree. I think that's a really important moment in the video game where you are just like seeing everything left behind. And I mean, that's a very real, like, for all of us, like, we've all lost people in real life. And like, there is that, like, oh shit, this is like their stuff and they're never
Yeah,
going to touch this stuff again. Like, it's
right.
just here and they're not. And it was
Yeah,
very powerful in the game. And I'm sure they'll do something with that in the show.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. So we'll see.
But yeah, I think we got time, like, to explore all this stuff. Like, I don't think they are going to rush it, and I don't think they should rush it.
Yeah, now I agree, and especially knowing now that there's going to be a third season, it's it's because there's so much in the second game. Just kind of thinking about like Lev and all these characters that come along
Yeah,
later. Um, I really do want them to take their time with it and get build these characters out in a more fleshed out way. Which I mean, arguably, I would argue they didn't get a chance to do in the first game, at least with like Joel and Ellie,
yeah,
or in the first season rather. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next, but I'm also like, yeah, I'm nervous about the reactions online still.
yeah, yeah. We'll see. And you know what? To the people who are like, I fucking hate this. Okay, that's fine. Watch something you like. I don't like. I
Yeah,
would never watch. Like, I would never be like, this causes me pain. I hate this, and be like, I'm gonna tune in next week. You know?
right. Oh yeah. I don't know
What?
if I've ever done that really with anything. Even I feel like I've also just become much better at like stopping after a few episodes if I'm like truly just like, oh, this show is really mid. Like there's a show on Apple TV called Sunny with Rashida Jones, and I was like rooting for it for like 4 episodes. The intro music is like so fucking awesome, and then like the show is just so bad. And I had to give it up, which I feel like in a decade ago I definitely wouldn't have, and I would have just like you know just pain through it. But there's so much television nowadays.
Yeah, there's too much for me to be like, oh, I'm gonna watch something I don't like. Like, it's like not clicking with me. I have so many shows that it's like, oh, I'm gonna get to that. I gotta get to that, and I'm not gonna, put myself through something negative.
Too. That's how I am with Yellow Jackets season 3. Like I've watched the
Yeah,
last 3 4 episodes, and I kind of know what happens because I've just seen stuff online. But it's really like it's like comically bad at this point. I'm so sorry, but
yeah,
the actors are like, honestly, the actresses are really great, but the story is just so off the rails at this point, which sucks because season 1 was so good. But
yeah.
anyway,
That's the problem with TV sometimes too, where it's like the writer has like a very specific view for like the first season, and then like it's like, okay, now you need to stretch it out for like 5 more seasons.
yeah,
It's like if the first season of True Detective, like people loved it, and then they were like, you have to keep the storyline going. Instead,
yeah,
like it would have been so
yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Oh no, exactly. And I think that's kind of the I feel like some comfort with The Last of Us because I I know that just having seen season 1, like they're really like they're on track and they're not like wasting any time. They
Yeah,
clearly have like a vision. Yes, we split off with other characters and stuff, but like they sped through that first game in like
yeah,
8 hours. You know, it's a speed run right there. But
yeah.
yeah.
You know what
So
a
like,
show's kind of like that is The Following, where like the
I've
pilot
never seen
is
it.
so fucking good. Like one of the best pilots I've ever seen. Like
Yeah.
twists, turns, like so incredible. And by the end of the first season, you're like, all right, it got a little off the rails, but a pretty good story. And it had 2 more seasons. And like by the third season, I was just watching it because I was like, this is just escalating so much that like I have to see where it finishes.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But it got
I
so
totally
off track.
right. 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 Yeah.
So yeah, following with Kevin Bacon, 3 seasons. First season's pretty good, and then it just goes so off the rails. But it's fun. It at least is fun. Like it never is like a drag because you're always just like, are you serious? We're going there now.
Right. 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 Yeah. So I did have one last question about this episode.
Mm.
What happened to the 2 horses at the end? Because
Yeah, they got left behind.
they just left them. I guess I don't know. I was like my immediate thought. I'm like, wait, 2 horses. I mean, I think it's more cinematic. The two horses
Oh, it
kind
was
of going
great.
across the
Yeah,
town.
what a
It's
shot.
such a great shot. But I'm also just like, what the fuck happened to the other 2 horses?
I think like Jesse was stressed. Like Ellie's probably completely inconsolable.
Yeah.
Uh Dina's drugged. Like you can even see her on the horse, like she's
Yeah,
like
she's
still
still,
out of it. He was like,
yeah,
I'm fucking come back for these. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta wrap Joel's body up and get back to Jackson because what the fuck is happening there?
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of
Poor horses.
away, but yeah, those poor
Yeah.
horses. But
Hopefully they'll be okay. Hopefully most of the infected in the area have been taken care of at this point.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. One other thing was in the game. Don't you go to a location that has like a bunch of like weed, like
Yeah, yeah. You
stuff?
go with Dina and Ellie and I think the hook up, right? In it.
Oh yeah. But do they? Is that their first time? I'm trying to like remember.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's the first time they hooked up. And then like in the game, I don't think Ellie or Dina know about Eugene's growing
Oh,
thing, but in this, like obviously Jesse knew. Um what I think there also you do see the Firefly necklace there the same way you do,
okay.
which I think in the moment, like I didn't think much of it in the game. But now like I wonder if there's gonna be another layer because we know that what's his name? Joe Popula? Uh God, I'm sorry, Joe. He's in The Sopranos. He's in The Matrix.
Okay.
He got cast as Eugene for the season. So I assume we'll have a flashback to.
Yeah.
Does he find out that Joel did this to the Fireflies and Joel kills him and then makes up a story about him getting bit?
Yeah. I mean, I yeah, I mean, I think that's a good guess because I in the after show interview, I think on episode one, they did talk about how like they're excited to explore Eugene's character more, whereas
Yeah.
he was kind of like, a bit of a throwaway character in the game. He's more of just like, a very, very side character. So like,
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't,
think you cast that actor if you don't at least have like one episode where he's like
right.
featured prominently, right?
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. He's kind of like an HBO darling in a
Yeah.
way. So yeah. But,
Incredible in The Sopranos. Just one of the best characters in the show.
so yeah.
So go watch that if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
Ralphie,
And they're gonna
amazing.
have to, yeah, they're gonna have to do more with um, his wife as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's a big name too. Like she's
yeah,
definitely not gonna just be a one and done
right,
person, right?
right. Which I mean, as you said earlier, like I do think they're gonna take their time because in the game it's pretty much off to the races, and you start playing. You're going through the world. You're making your way to Seattle, and having all these characters and stuff in Jackson, I think they're gonna kind of stick around there for a little longer. And I'm kind of I'm trying to figure out how they're gonna do that, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited though. I can't wait for the next episode. It's just been so good these last few months on HBO, like White Lotus into The Last of Us. Like, can't ask for more, you know?
Yeah, it's true. And now the Nathan Fielder show, which
The
I have
rehearsal, yeah.
I have no clue what's gonna happen next on that either, because it's like borderline, almost not even comedy.
One
It's
of
like a
the
whole
the
different.
best episodes of television was last night. Like, God, that was so good. He's got a fastball still. Like,
Yeah, yeah, oh for sure. No, his like his skill for just kind of dissecting reality TV and documentary filmmaking is like just it's getting like crazier and crazier, and it's almost like it's, I just think of like the big brain meme where it's like he's like his brain is so big that he's like sitting on it. I feel like that's like Nathan Fielder right now. He's like, yeah. Anyway.
yeah, there's a shot in the rehearsal, season 2, episode 1, where he's like, there's like a plane crash and it like looks like a movie style plane crash, and then he just like looms out of the flames,
Right.
just like standing there. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, already we're off to like an amazing start.
Totally.
Oh man. All right. Anything you want to promote before we get on out of here?
No, just check us out on Wicked Good Everything. Watch our YouTube videos, subscribe, and anyway, you're better with this, Brian. You take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, check out the YouTube channel. Just did a video about Survivor. Gonna do a video about how this show's been adapted for The Last of Us to hopefully cross promote that with the podcast, get some more viewers here for us, where I can be like, and if you want like my real in-depth analysis, go check out this podcast. We also have Black Mirror podcast, A Look in the Mirror, that we've been doing new episodes twice a week for the new season, and then we'll see if we go back and cover it from the very beginning. Like Tamur said, main channels where you get everything. We have Those Fake Nerds, which is nerd pop culture news. We get sports, which is sports news, and Better Radio, which is this channel, which has all of our podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.